Hey there, loves. Welcome to Life's Just Cray. I'm Kate, and this is where we talk through real life situations that have you up until 2 a.m. talking with your bestie. Like, okay, but what would you do though? Real situations, real talk, no fluff. My grandma always used to say that you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And that's exactly how I move on this show. Okay, let's get into it, because today we're talking toxic workplaces, and this one is going to feel very familiar to a lot of you.
I have been in my current job for 2.5 years. When I started, I was genuinely excited. The role was a step up from where I had been. The compensation was better, and the opportunity felt real in a way I had not felt about work in a long time. I told myself I had finally landed somewhere I could build something, that I could grow here. That feeling lasted about 4 months. What followed is something I have struggled to put into words because it is not the kind of situation that is easy to explain to someone on the outside, without sounding dramatic or difficult. There is nothing I can point to that would look alarming on paper. No single incident. No obvious villain. No moment I can screenshot and show someone and say this is exactly what I mean. Just a slow and steady accumulation of an environment that does not feel safe to be honest in. Where showing up as your full self feels like a risk you cannot afford to take. Where the energy required just to get through a regular workday has become completely out of proportion to what any job should cost a person. I have watched 3 people leave in the past year alone. Each time someone puts in their notice, there is a brief and genuine seeming acknowledgement that something needs to change. And then within a few weeks, everything goes back to exactly what it was before. Nothing shifts. Nothing is addressed. The people who stay learn to make themselves smaller to avoid becoming a target, and I have caught myself doing the same thing without even realizing it until I was already doing it, shrinking, carefully choosing every word, second-guessing interactions that should be simple. Credit disappears in ways I cannot prove but absolutely feel. Feedback shifts depending on who is in the room and what they need the narrative to be that day. I have learned to read the temperature of every meeting before I say a single word, and that level of constant calculation is exhausting in a way that follows me home every single night. The part I cannot reconcile is that on paper this job looks like a win. The pay is the best I have ever made. The title is one I worked hard to earn, and that carries real weight in my industry. If I walked away tomorrow, the people in my life would not fully understand why, because they only see what the role looks like on a resume and not what it actually feels like to live inside it every single day. I present well. Nobody looking at me from the outside would see someone who dreads Sunday evenings the way I do now. I cannot remember the last time I left work feeling genuinely proud of something I did. And I'm beginning to wonder how much longer I can keep showing up to something that is quietly costing me more than it is giving back. How do you know when it is time to stop surviving a job and start actually leaving it?
Before you do anything else, and I mean anything, I need you to save your work. Not just on your computer, and not just in the company system. On a separate personal drive that belongs to you and only you. Every project you touched, every idea you contributed to, every email that shows your involvement in something that later showed up somewhere without your name on it. You save all of it with a timestamp that proves that you were there and that you did that work before anyone else had the chance to tell a different story. And that's not paranoia. That's protection. And in a situation like the one you're describing, you need to be protecting yourself before you make another single move. Now, let's talk about what you're actually dealing with here. Because what you described has a name, even when it doesn't look dramatic from the outside. A workplace that punishes honesty in ways that are never traceable, and credit that quietly disappears, and feedback that changes depending on who is watching. That kind of environment doesn't get better. Just because you work harder or you keep your head down longer, it gets better when leadership decides to actually change it. And from everything you've described, that decision has not been made and may never be made. But here's what I want you to think about before you make any decisions now. Have you documented everything? Because documentation is going to be your best friend right now. Dates, conversations, what was said, and by whom. Not because you're necessarily building a case, but because clarity on paper has a way of helping you see the full picture more than you can when you're in the middle of just living it every single day. And that Sunday dread, I want to talk about that specifically because I think it's the most honest signal that your body's giving you right now. Your nervous system is telling you something every single week before you even walk back in through that door. And that's not a small thing. That's your mind and your body in complete agreement that something's wrong. The question is not really whether you should eventually leave. Based on everything you shared, the answer to that is probably yes. But the question is how you leave strategically and on your own terms, rather than in a way that costs you more than you've already given. So here's the order of operations that you should follow. Save your work first, document everything second, and then quietly start building your exit while you're still employed. Because it's always easier to leave and find the next thing from inside a job than from outside of one. You don't have to announce anything, and you don't have to confront anyone either. You just have to start preparing your way out while protecting everything you brought in. Your talent got you there. Your talent will get you somewhere better. Don't let a toxic environment convince you otherwise. Alrighty, loves. That's all I've got for you today, and you already know where to find me. Slide into the DMs with your situation, and you might just hear it on the next episode. And if this one hit home for you, share it with someone who needs it, because that is what we do. And remember, just because I've said this advice doesn't mean you have to take it. You're the maker of your own decisions, but you must also be willing to deal with the consequences of your actions if there are any. Until next time, take care of yourself.